Welcome to another garden vlog, and we are here looking at this pawpaw that I grafted a couple years ago. Of course, not a whole lot of growth, but the darn grasshoppers, did they destroy all the potential buds on this thing? You know, it came back once after they ate all the leaves, and you can see this is the rootstock here, and there's even a grasshopper turd there probably. And there's probably another one. They just did they kill the graft? Here's another one when they pretty much destroyed it. It does have some leaves coming out, but are the grasshoppers gonna kill it? This is Kentucky Champion. And this is Pandam. You see the leaves are all eaten like crazy. And this is the Summer's Delight. Hey, we did a video already about how bad these eastern lover grasshoppers were this year. You don't have to look far for them. There's one on our jujube. Now, before we go too far into this garden vlog, and I'm not even sure what we're going to do in this video here, I just want to address something because we got a nasty comment, from a previous video. It might have been a year back or so, about how the videography sucks, and this guy or woman or whatever seemed to think that our garden vlogs were supposed to be these like high quality productions that were tutorials on how to do certain things. Guess what? We've made over 700 videos, not just gardening, but all kinds of videos, fundraising, DIY stuff, our tequila journeys, FA, Frederick's Ataxia stuff, all that good stuff. And we have made $0 on YouTube making these videos. We're just on a phone here, and we're just sort of sharing a large chunk of our lives here. Hopefully it'll inspire some people, but it's not meant to be like a professional tutorial. We're not a big university with, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, to have that high quality production. If we were making money and we had, 100,000 subscribers, then we could probably focus more on the quality of the video quality, sound quality, getting everything right, all that good stuff. I think too many people have this expectation of going to YouTube and thinking everything should be like $100,000 million budget, material, but anybody with a phone or camera can, go to YouTube and they can make YouTube videos. Our garden endeavors, we probably do have long-term goals, and we're always learning, but we're still, like I said, we don't have the 100 acres, 1,000 acres, $1 million just to go, plant and get all this equipment and just say, this is how you do this, this is how you do this. Look at all these thousands of freaking watermelons we have here. Look at this big orchard of apples, peaches, pears, jujubes, everything like that. We don't really have bountiful harvests because one reason is we're experimenting with many different types of fruiting shrubs, herbs, this and that, and trees. Not focusing just on peaches, not focusing just on pears. We're experimenting with so many different things, and our experiments are on wetlands. There are acidic swamplands that most people call trash lands, that you can't do anything on. You will see our successes and failures. And let's go back to the long-term goals. If we get the successes, in a good way, in a good quantity, we can definitely come back here whether it be 6 months or 5 years, and say, this is what we learned. This is how you do this right. We could possibly make a tutorial or how to circumvent this trash land and make it work for you. But this isn't our whole life. We're not getting paid. We don't have a nursery. We're not propagating plants to sell. We're not buying and selling plants. We're not brokers. And like I said, we're not making any money on YouTube or with these videos at all. So just enjoy it for what it is. And if you don't enjoy it, just, click on some other video. There are plenty of gardening videos, of people in South Florida, people in Georgia, Alabama, other states that probably are having successes outside of a swamp. This is the North Central Florida swamplands here. Not sure how many people are posting videos about this type of climate and soil. But this is where we live. This has been family land for going on 50 years. If we were rich, we wouldn't have to fight this land. We could just go somewhere where we know things work better. But since we're not, we're showing everybody our struggles and successes and our experiments. You got what you got, and just try to use it to the best of your ability. If you think you can't do something, maybe we'll show you something. Maybe we have shown you something, and maybe we will show you something in the future where you can say, I haven't tried that. Is it working for this guy? Maybe I'll try that too. Now, we have an area here where some trees died or were cut down, or a combination of both, where we got a big old pile of sun right there on the edge of part of our property. But this area is so root dense and messy, from all the trees and the limbs that's falling and there's vines growing everywhere. We would really have to majorly clean up that area. That might be a good place for a pear tree. Possibly something else, but we, like I said, the root density here with these sweet gums and everything around is bad. So we'd probably have to get something that would cut through the roots, like an auger or something, or build like a raised bed or something. But that's wishful thinking now. It's way too hot and I don't have an auger. A long time ago, under this camphor tree, I always planned to put like a grill and a picnic table and stuff up here. Of course, it can be nasty when it's super flooded and wet here and mosquitoes, but it can also be a paradise at sometimes, and I think we talked several videos back. This was sort of a driveway here to bring dirt and all that stuff to my raised beds, but since I'm not doing that anymore, we can leave a little trail, 4 foot or whatever, and possibly plant it out with figs, or maybe figs and pears. But I'm thinking maybe 1 or 2 pear trees around here. I haven't zoomed in too much. We need to get a pear in the ground because we haven't planted a pear tree in a long time, not in the ground at least. How many years has it been? Have we even planted one since I started this vlog? I don't think so. I think all of the pear trees that are in the ground, whether it be dead pear trees that went to rootstock or living pear trees that are still alive, the kefir pear, the variety of unknown pear trees, they were all here. First ever time we're going to plant a pear in the ground on this garden vlog. Woohoo! So we made another mix like we did the other day when we were planting those jaboticavas and avocados and white sapotes and stuff out here. I used my magic soil from the old ex-goat run. I got active compost here from my compost bin. I put some black cow, a little bit of peat, and a little bit of potting soil from my container where the plant died, you know. And why do I do that? You know, the thing is, when these containers have soil in them for so long, they build up a nice level of earthworms and insect activity. So we're seeding earthworms out of 3 different places at least, and we're adding all kinds of nutrients and hopefully some beneficial nematodes. Hopefully, you know, this will activate some mycorrhizal fungi as well, especially when we start post mycorrhizal beds on these guys. So I think the pear tree that we're going to do today is this Southern Queen pear. Yep, I paid $29 for that guy. I've probably seen it on one of our, you know, further nurseries that I go to. Was it Greenhouse Nursery in Archer or whatever? A couple times over the years. Never really heard of it before then. But I tried to graft it onto a few things. So I took cuttings, clippings, and none of them took. So I don't have a backup of it. So let's put it in the ground, see if it's happy in the ground. I don't want anything to happen to it in its container. You know, sometimes we have to do the opposite thing. You know, we talk about backing up mulberries, backing up figs, but sometimes a fig isn't happy in whatever potting soil or container, just like that XL wasn't, and we planted it to try to save it. We're going to plant this guy. It doesn't look super bad or anything. Doesn't look the best. It looks okay. But, you know, they're probably not super rare. We do have a Raja Asian pear connected there, so we may have to prune it a certain way over time to make sure that guy gets growth as long as it survives the summer here. And it could be half and half. We could, you know, graft something onto it later. I don't know, because we could do a triple graft here maybe if we had big enough material. Although you can put smaller material sometimes on it, do a reverse cleft graft or something. So we're looking kind of where the shadows of the trees are. You can see the shade meets sun, and we already have stuff here in this area, so this would be in too close a proximity for those 3 trees or shrubs. That's the bale fig we're trying to rescue. We have an avocado there that's probably not going to make it, but we'll give it a little bit of a chance here. Got sun there, but we also need to make sure we have room for our lawnmower to come through here and mow the trails. This is the sweet gum area, so it's super root dense, and this is getting back to like some of the wettest areas on our property when we go down here in that slope. So even though pears and apples like a little bit of wet feed, especially pears, I don't think they like it that wet without putting like a raised bed or something up or putting it on a hill. Going over here where we have that new cherry guava, mountain guava, we're kind of close to structures even though there's more sun here, but this is a little dip that's wet too. And yeah, we got more sun here. We might just have to put it somewhere in over there or over here and just have it in a little bit of shade. It should get some afternoon sun. Hopefully it'll be happy. I would kind of prefer it to have morning sun just because that dries dew up and helps with fungal issues and stuff like that. We may get some early sun from that opening over there. We were talking about putting something way over there by the fence line earlier in this video, but we'll see. I think we're going to have to do it over here. Now, as I'm digging here, it's probably more important that I loosen up a wide area versus a deep area, because we don't want to just pit it against 2 or 5, you know, super close, dense roots. We want it to be able to spread its root systems out, so we'll try to make an extra wide hole here if we can. Definitely have some camphor roots and stuff here. I can smell it as I'm digging. And as I've been digging here, I've been looking for earthworms, and I do not see a single earthworm. Again, this is super acidic soil, and it's shady enough. There should be moisture retention here with all this organic material, so it shouldn't be too dry for the worms to survive, and they're not here. So it's time to put some of this mixture in here, maybe about half of it. And there's even some eggshells and stuff here, and we're going to mix this with the dirt, the native soil. I just kind of loosely mixed it up. I don't want to chop all those earthworms and insects and stuff in half. All right, she's good and probably pretty root, not super root bound, but just enough so that is holding its shape. You know, the soil is holding its shape after we took it out of the bucket. Not too much soil loosened up, but I really don't see any bad root systems there where we're going to have to cut the roots and kind of spread it out. We're just going to bury it as is and hope for the best. We even have a little Suriname cockroach from the dirt, and they get in these potting soils and pots all the time. So I don't know how good these worms and insects are going to be here, but we'll probably have to do this post-mycorrhizal bed, build-up bed or whatever, just like we do on a few other things. You know, we want those earthworms to be in the soil. And there it is. We put a bunch of rainwater in this guy, you know, to make sure we packed it in pretty tight. We want this guy to succeed. So there we have it, pretty short and sweet. And I know I want to plant, and I may plant some more stuff today, but it's probably not going to be on this vlog. We've already planted jaboticabas, you know, a few times on this vlog lately, and we got more to kind of just put here and there and everywhere else. I'm assuming the next time I'll plant a pear tree, it'll probably be also on this garden vlog. Yay, we got our first pear tree that has been video, you know, we videoed planting one. First pear tree put in the ground in many years, probably at least over 10. I believe in the last video I talked about trying to snug up the roots of a pear tree, you know, by burying like blocks in the ground. Maybe we'll do that in the future, because we still got, what, 1, 2, I don't know, 2 at least more to plant. We have actually, we got a biz camp, and we have a, what is the other one? The soft sand pear, whatever cultivar that is. And I think we have a bulb one too. So I guess we got 3 that we need to plant. But putting that idea into action, you know, the snugging it up, the snugging of the root systems without, you know, girdling the roots and trunk and stuff, that's going to require being in a less root dense area, making a much bigger pit, you know, hole, figuring out how many blocks and how far apart, and, you know, I don't know. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, but I definitely would like to find a place where a pear would be good at, you know, a good sunny spot that meets that criteria, and it also meets the criteria of not being in the way of lawnmowers or, you know, driveways or whatever, walkways. Unfortunately, I had to put 2 or 3 more pots into the mulberry ICU where things are not looking great, and that's quite a bit of stuff. Some of these guys got 2 or 3 cultivars in here that are either grafted or, you know, cuttings. But a lot of these guys still showing promise. Some of them are having some good growth on them. It's just way too early to tell, you know, to get it's close to 100% prediction of what succeeded and what failed. Maybe in 2 to 4 weeks we can do just a mulberry update video for you guys. All right, guys, take care.